Good night of Shabbos, everyone. Baruch Shechianu v'kimanu v'gianu l'zman hazeh, to the conclusion of Masechtas Bchoros. You know, in the Daf Yomi, Masechtas Bchoros is a very hard Masechta, and we got the groundwork now with this Masechta, learning the Mishnayos, and we are sponsored by the Fisher family, Nishmas Basi Bas Rabbi Shlomo ben Avram Alevi Perel Bas Ruvain. We're sponsored also Nishmas Dav ben Chaim Lefu Shalem Fel Yomis Mechaisar Yaakov ben Bas Yaleh for the schus of Avram ben Yom ben Nishma Malk Yehudis. We're sponsored by Yor Klugman and family for their Parnas Gzun Nachas. We're sponsored Lefu Shalem for Victor Ayi ben Rivka in the Bas Chaisar Yitzah ben Tzir Medusha Rivka Bas Shivaleh Chana Bas Shashabina Dvar Bas Shashabina Chaisar Bas Shashabina Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel Bas Chana Aaron ben Sarah Nachman Yaakov ben Sarah and Zev ben Chayetel Meir ben Chayesar. They should have a refuah shalema b'seich sharcha Yisrael. So we're talking all about Ma'aseh Behema. What's the procedure? Keitzad ma'asran. How do we go about taking off the 10th animal? So kainz and ladir, you put them into a corral. V'oisen lem pesach cotton, and you make a very narrow door. Kedei shelo yushnayim yuchel lotzis gachas, that they could only pass by one at a time. And you count them with a rod, echad, as they go through the door, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, tisha, vayetzi asira, and the one that comes out the 10th, soikre b'sikri, strikes it with some red paint that's on the rod. It is meiser. If you left out some of the details, you didn't strike it with the red paint, or you didn't count it with a stick, or they weren't walking, you counted them while they were crouching, or while they were standing. However, if you didn't count them, there was 100, you just picked randomly 10 without counting them, or asar this 10 and you picked one. Ein zeh meiser. That's not meiser because the Tanakama says you have to count them. Rabbi Yehuda says the counting is not ma'akev. Hari zeh meiser. Now, let's say you counted them and they went out, and kofatz echad min hamenuyin l'seichan. One of those that was already counted, let's say 4, jumped back into the corral. Elu p'turim. All the rest of the animals in the corral are potter, and this is why. Because the 10th one has to be definitely meiser. And therefore here, since the 10th one is not definitely meiser, they're all potter. Minam usarin l'seichan. Let's say you have 4 animals left in the corral, and one of the animals that was Ma'aseh Behema jumped back in. So now, one of the things about Ma'aseh Behema is it can't be redeemed. So, and you can't offer up on the Mizbeach because you don't know which one it is. And Kulin can't be offered on the Mizbeach. So Kulin Yiru Achi Yistavu, they're all left to pasture until they get a mum, and then the owner could eat it because the owner could eat Ma'aseh Behema. V'yachal b'mum and l'baylam, and it's eaten when it gets the mum to the owner. Now we're going to have some, for the last Mishnah in the Masechta, we're going to have some unusual cases. Yatzu shnayim ke'echad. If, let's say, a pair went out at the same time, even though it's supposed to be so narrow, but 2 squeezed out at the same time, and you counted it as 1. So now, to be consistent, you let, again, pairs go out, and you count the second pair as 2, and the third pair as, you count, so you count the second pair as number 2, and the third pair as number 3, and the fourth pair as number 5, until the 10th pair as 10, and that really is 19 and 20, and they're both Ma'aseh Behema. Mana Echad and Chiva as Mana Isam Shnayim, and 19 and 20 will both be Ma'aseh Behema. However, if you mess up, and 2 went out, and Manon Echad, you counted it as 1. And then you count the next one as 2. Really, it's 3. And the next one is 3. And so when you count the the 10th one as 10, right? The 10th one as 10 is really 11, right? And 9 is really 10. So there, Chiva Asiri Mikulkalim, 9 and 10 are messed up. The 9th one, which in this case is really 10, but you called it 9. And the 10th one, which you called 10, is really 11. So in this case, they get messed up. And therefore, both of them have a sanctity. The 11th one because you called it 10, and the 9th one because it really is 10. You have to let them be raya until it gets a mum. Now, what happens if yotzu chiva siri ka'achas? What happens if 9 and 10 go out at the same time? Right? So there is a 10th one, but we don't know which one it is. So again, over here, we let them be raya until they get a mum, and we eat them. Karal, now here, this is a case that's brought down throughout Shash. Karal Chia Asiri. The man got mixed up. He called the 9th one 10. And then trying to correct his mistake, he said, okay, let's forget that one. And then La Asiri Chi called the 10th one 9. And then Ula Achad Asar Asiri, and he called the 11th one 10. So here, he really made a mistake. He called the 9th one 10, and then he tried to start over. So he called the 10th one 9, and the 11th one 10. This is a special halach l'moshe Sinai that shloshton mikudashin. All 3 of them are kodesh. Hachi, the 9th one that he called 10, is nechel b'mumai. He gets a mum and he could eat it. The 10th one that he called 9, since it was the 10th one, so asiri ma'aser, that could be offered as ma'aser behema. And the 11th one that he called 10 is offered up as a shlamim. V'achad aser karv shlamim. And says the Gemara, v'oisa tmura, says the Mishna, and it could make an exchange. In other words, since the 11th one is a shlamim, it could affect an exchange. If you said zeh tachas zeh, and you could offer it up. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says there's a special halacha that Rabbi Yehuda, he said, why is the 11th one a shlamim? Because you called it 10. So really it's like an exchange of ma'aser behema. And we have a klal that ain't tmura says Rabbi Yehuda. V'chi yesh tmura oisa tmura. So Amru Mishim Rab Meir, so they said in the name of Rab Meir, I'm sorry. But if the 11th one is offered as a shlamim because it's like a tmura, there is no tmura by ma'aser behema. Ilu haya tmura lo haya karev. So therefore it's not a din of tmura, but it's a special halacha Moshe Sinai that if you call the 11th one 10, it's offered up as a shlamim, and therefore it could make a tmura. And now the Masechta ends off with one more case. Karal Achi Asiri, if you called the 9th one 10, V'la Asiri Asiri, and you called the 10th one 10, V'la Achad Asar Asiri, and you called the 11th one 10, so the 9th one that you called 10 is Achal B'mumai. The 10th one that you called 10 is, of course, Ma'aser Behema. It's offered as a carbon. The 11th one that you called 10 is nothing. Because once you called the 10th one 10, it counts over. Ein Echad Asa Mekudesh. The 11th one is not sanctified. Zeh HaKlal. Kol shelo nekar shem asiri mimenu. If you didn't uproot the name of 10 from the real one, Ein Echad Asa Mekudesh. The 11th one doesn't have sanctity. It's only in the previous case where you called the 10th one 9, and then you called the 11th one 10, that the 11th one has some kedusha and it's offered up as a shlamim. Wow, what an accomplishment! Hadnu alach Masechtas Bchoros Hadron Alach Mesechtes Bchoros, Hadron Alach Mesechtes Bchoros. I want to mention that if you didn't get a chance yet, I put on 2 shiurim on Vayechi. Last week I was really not feeling well because I just had a procedure, but this week I'm feeling stronger. So we have the main shir on Vayechi and also Vayechi for the Shabbos table. Take a look at that. There's also a small little share that I gave Saras Tavis, Taste of Tshuva. You might look at that as well. If you want to sponsor Masechta Shmais, as we start the new Chumash, what an exciting Chumash, 718-916-3100, RMMWSI at AOL.com. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.